Hi friends, welcome back to my final project as the guest designer for Elle Studio. It wouldn't be a Tashiana month if I didn't make something that had a rainbow because hi, my name is Tashi and rainbow is my favorite color. My husband would argue that rainbow is my favorite color except for purple, but there is a purple distress ink because there's purple here and I will behave myself even if I do not enjoy purple. So for my final page, since I've been telling love stories all month, I told a story about my husband, I told a story about one of my cats. I don't know if Tori feels neglected, but she doesn't let me take pictures of her. For my final story, I'm talking about a different kind of love, and that's the love between friends, because my girls have my heart. These are some of my nursing school friends, and nursing school friends are lifelong friends. And so for my final story, I am documenting this photo that I had with them on a game night. This was after finals, if you couldn't tell by how much we are laughing. No one laughs this much when they're in nursing school, but after finals and after school's over, then there's lots of time for joy and for laughter. So I have that. I don't really have a plan besides that. I know I want to stencil some hearts on this rainbow paper because I'm going to do a rainbow on rainbow. And besides that, you and I are going to figure this out together and I think it's going to be a great time. So I have a bunch of distress inks on my desk. I have some blending brushes. I have some washi tape to keep my stencil down. I have my box of goodies. And I have the album that it's eventually going to live in. And we are going to go, you guys. So let's cross our fingers and let's make something magical today. All right, friends, so let's get to work on this layout. I am so happy that I was chosen to be the guest designer with this kit because you guys know rainbow is my favorite color and there were rainbow papers in this 6x8 paper pad. So of course I had to play off of the rainbows. So what I did first was I used this Vicky Boutin stencil that I had in my stash and I stenciled on a rainbow of hearts over top the rainbow paper using my Distress Oxide inks. And at first I was worried that the colors wouldn't be true to color because I was stenciling it over color, but it actually came out really good and you'll see when I do the final reveal when I pick up the stencil. So the colors I used were Abandoned Coral, Spiced Marmalade, Fossilized Amber, Mowed Lawn, Mermaid Lagoon, Concord, Dusty Concord, and Picked Raspberry. And I just did that off the top of my head, you guys. But those are like my go-to when I'm doing a rainbow. Like I didn't include any red because I didn't think there was any room for red ink. But when I'm going for a rainbow effect, those are my go-to Distress Oxides. And if you're new to mixed media, Distress Oxides are a great way to start because you can do ink blending, you can watercolor with them. They are just, do you guys see like how pretty? So they're just a great thing to have in your stash if you're new to mixed media. I highly recommend you pick up a few Distress Oxides to start. And then, if I didn't have enough rainbow on the left side of my page, I grabbed another rainbow paper out the 6x8 pack. So we're going rainbow on rainbow, you guys. And I said in the intro, I had no idea what I was doing. So I'm literally making this up as I go. I knew I wanted to use that big wood veneer XO. I wanted to get it on this page. At first, I was like, maybe I'll put it in the bottom. But then I was worried that it was covering up too much of the stenciling. And you'll see in the final version that it covers up a bunch of the stenciling anyway. But I didn't know where to put it. And then I have that photo. And it was a landscape photo. So I had to kind of crop it so it's still landscape. But small enough so it fits in this album, which is, I think, 4.5 wide. So it's a little bit smaller than it would be if I was doing it on a full-size layout. But honestly, I like the small photos. Like I like the small scale. And then to repeat the cascading rainbow on the left side, I took that label sheet that's part of the January add-ons and I just cut it up with my paper trimmer, and you see I'm kind of creating a cascade of labels on the right side of the page. And again, this is just to mimic the feel and the texture of the cascading hearts on the left side. Now there were no yellow labels in that sheet, but pretty much every other color was represented. So I cut it up really quickly, I created a cascade on the left side, and what I tried to do was go opposite the rainbow order that the paper was in. So since blue was at the top, I put pink at the top and blue at the bottom just to create contrast so that the blue label wasn't on the blue line of the pattern paper, if that makes more sense. I think that creates some contrast, helps the color to pop off the page a little bit more. And then I'm just using my tape runner to tape those labels down. Now I end up kind of using, at first I didn't know what I was going to do with them. I didn't know if I was going to leave them blank, but I ended up using them as journaling spots and kind of wrote in those labels. Now my handwriting, I'm trying to include my handwriting more and more in my projects. I've done so much typed journaling, but typed journaling takes some time and not everyone has time for that. So I'm trying to include handwriting in more and more of my projects. So I wrote, here's how it reads. It reads, good times with you, love you to the moon, together forever, today and tomorrow, we are here together, in one word, friends. Like, it's not the most grammatically correct sentence, but it feels like it reads like a sentence, and I liked it a lot. Like, I like the way the labels lay and how the sentiments kind of read like they're connected. So I just used a Papermate Flair pen with a really bold pen to scribble that out, and I was terrified I was going to ruin it because now it's officially stuck down to my page, but I went for it and it worked. And now what I'm looking for is a horizontal journaling tag because I decided I wanted to do a flip up. I do so many flip ups, you guys. Flip ups are my jam. They're like my favorite way to add more journaling, to hide journaling, to add interactivity and interest to your pages. I love a good flip. And the way I make a flip is, if you haven't seen me do this before, I use a bit of cardstock. I score it down the middle, and then I stick it down on both sides of my flip element. That way I'm not using washi, so you don't have to see the washi tape like hiding out, like if that's not your thing. I'm not a washi girl. I also worry about the longevity of washi in albums. I just don't, I don't know if it's going to be as sticky long term, whereas with tape, I'm pretty confident that tape will hold up. The downside to doing it this way is you have to back your photo because now you have cardstock on the back side of your photo and you have to do something else to cover up that empty space. So what I decided to do was pull out the mini dated extra stamp set and just add a sentiment. So my journaling says, so the tag says on this day, and I wrote game night and dancing and laughing till it hurt and laughing anyway and hugs and hugs and hugs. And I love this bunch of girls so much my heart may burst. This friendship is forever. A quick little story just so I remember what I was documenting. We had hung out after Christmas with our significant other. So like all of us brought our husbands and our boyfriends, and it was really nice to like get together and not have school looming over us. So that's what I'm documenting. So here I just stamped down the highlights off the mini dated extra stamp sets, and then I added the date, December 27th, in gray ink. And then I go ahead and add 2 hearts from the die cut pack just to fill in the empty space because there was a little bit of empty space at the top. I tried to center my stamping as best as I can, but I've said this multiple times, I am not a stamper. I just masquerade as one on TV. So I tried to center my stamping to the best of my abilities, and again, I stamped it on gray ink. So here I just have my scoreboard. I'm scoring that scrap bit of cardstock right down the middle, and that is what I'm going to use to create my flip. So any bit of scrap cardstock that you have lying around works for this technique perfectly. You don't need like special paper. You could use copy paper. I just like cardstock because since it's going to be flipping up and down, I think the heavier weight holds up in the long run. But I do this like in every album I make. I do this in my December daily all the time. I've been including it in my story album now just because I like having that little flip. I like the interactivity of a flip page. Like it feels fun. So here I am. Now I'm trying to assemble it. And I haven't made a flip in a very long time. So I'm trying to remember what's the order. Like, do you back it? Do you attach the hinge first? And the right way to do it, well, there is no right way to scrapbook, is there? But the way that I normally do it that makes the most sense to me is to attach the hinge first. So I'm trimming down my card because it actually worked out that my card was a little bit wider than my photo. My photo is not exactly 3x4. I think it's like 2 3/4 high, and I think 3 3/4 wide. Yeah, that's what it was. So I had to trim off like a 1/4 inch off of each of the journaling tags. And so see, first I attach my hinge to the bottom element, and I make sure that it's scored and it works, and then I stick my photo down to the things that it doesn't belong to because there's tape on it, and I probably should have been more careful. And then I stick the top part of my hinge down to my photo. And that is how it flips. And then I add a little bit more adhesive and I stick the top part of, the backing paper that's going to cover the backside of my photo, and I check it. It works. I think it looks pretty good. And then I pretty much go ahead and adhere it. Never mind. I pull it apart a few times. I am so I don't even know if there's a word for how hard I try to get things straight, and then I just don't. And so I will struggle with it a few times, eventually realize that the struggle is futile, and then I will give up. So I gave up. We're putting it on the page, and I tried to stick it as low as to the page as possible because I didn't want to cover up that blue label that said friends. I end up having to move it up a little bit more, so the blue label intersects and covers up the green one a little bit more than the rest of the labels on the page. That might be something that bothers you, but for me, it's all about getting these pages together, and it doesn't matter to me if everything is not even height. So now I'm trying to figure out what I want to do on the left side, and I liked that tag, but I didn't want to put the tag with the title on the lower half of the page because my photo was on the lower half of the right side. So I wanted to find some way to put it closer to the middle or closer to the top to kind of balance off the right side, because now the right side is so bottom heavy with that photo and that flip. So I go ahead and I pick out this tag that says a special note just for you. I liked it because it was white and it was neutral, had a little bit of gray, wasn't introducing any extra color, and it was a convenient place to rest that XO, so the XO is not just on the busy background. It has a place to kind of sit, which was my thought process. I wanted to make sure that I had a place to kind of rest where it was lifted off the heart background. And then I'm pretty much finished. I go ahead and I scatter some pleather hearts and some puffy hearts. I use the puffy stickers from the puffy sticker pack just to add the phrase "love you," just to add a little bit more to the title. So now my title's XO Love You, and then I add some puffy stickers. Now I will make a tiny admission. I had every intention of just punching holes in these papers and putting them in the album. And then my hole punch was not set correctly. So I ended up having to add a little bit of acetate. I punched the holes, realized the hole punch wasn't set correctly, had a full-on meltdown, cried a little bit, and then I had to trim off the paper with the holes, add some acetate, and put it in the book. So it looks a little bit differently in the album than it did in this final shot, just because I flubbed a little bit. It happens. So you'll see in the final pictures that it looks a little different, but I think it still works really well. And the other thing I did that I forgot to mention is I added another one of those wood hearts, just because there was wood veneer on the left side of the page and I wanted to carry it to the right side. This is something I do all the time. I like repeating textures on both sides, so I put the pleather stickers on both sides, I have the puffy stickers on both sides, and then I have that wood veneer on both sides. And that pretty much completes my final layout for the guest design spot at Elle Studio for January. So I want to say thank you one more time to Elle Studio and to the design team for giving me the opportunity to be a guest designer. I am so grateful and so thankful that I had this opportunity to play with these products. I hope you guys learned something this month and you were inspired to make something with your own products. And again, everything from the shop will be linked in the description bar, and there'll be a blog post with all the items that I used in this particular layout. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this layout. I hope you learned something, and I hope you're inspired to give this a try of your own. And until next time, keep it crafty, friends, and have the best day.